Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Gretta Chamberlain, who's here today to talk about a lot of things, but we're going to kick off with talking about her mandate for the universe, which is for every person to love themselves unconditionally. So we're going to come on to that. But first, a bit about Gretta. She's a doctor of Naprapathic Medicine. She's an international remote energy healer, a best-selling author, recording artist, lecturer, educator, and the channel for her non-physical guides, the realm of beings. Gretta's life mission is to guide humanity toward unconditional love and a deeper understanding of how we consciously create reality. In August of 2025, she released her Grammy-considered album, In Silence, a channeled transmission from the realm of beings accompanied by singing bowl frequencies. And I can tell you it is utterly, utterly beautiful. The album's soundscape calms the nervous system, supports deep meditation, and provides an intimate field for emotional and energetic healing. And you can find Gretta on drgretta.com, which is DOCTORGRETTA.com. And on there you can find connections to her album and her music and all the wonderful stuff that she's doing. So, Gretta, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Privilege.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. So your mandate for the universe to unconditionally love ourselves, I think most people would hear that and think, well, yeah, obviously we should do that, right? But my guess is you probably looked into it a little bit more deeper than that. It's not a bumper sticker. So would you like to share with us where did that come from, that particular description of the mandate for the universe?
It came because I was contacted. I go through periods where I'm given tasks. So I was asked to bring that to what's called the Universal Federation. So I do work with creation of reality, with transformational healing, and then the cosmos. So now you're asking me a cosmic question.
Yes.
So I was asked to go to the Universal Federation and put in the request that the entire universe accept the concept of unconditional love. And I'll tell you what that means in a minute. When I went there, I requested it, and I told them that I would return in 2 days, humanoid time, because at the Universal Federation, everybody is there. At least 2 representatives of each species, sentient species, is there. So they were interested, but they had to vote on it to see how they were going to move within this in the universe. I know it sounds like Star Wars or Star Trek or something like that, but this is what really happens. And so when I came back within the 2 days humanoids time span, I asked, well, what was the decision? So 50% of the universe at that time accepted the whole concept of unconditional love, and the other 50% did not. So battles there's a planet in another reality that has the population is mixed with all different species throughout the universe reside there. because the Federation wanted the universe to see that people and individuals, I say individuals because people refers to humanoids. Okay, so individuals of the universe can live together in peace and acceptance of each other. So they created this planet for everybody to reside on. And that went on. That's been about maybe 15, close to 20 years ago now that work was done. So we've been working on that for quite a while. We've gotten from 50%, it went down to 15% was only left over those years, and now we're at 9%. So I talk about the 9% that does not want to accept unconditional love in the universe, and they're still working to not to accept it, you know. So consequently, one of the planets that they like to challenge and play with is Earth. So that is one reason why you see a lot of I call it interesting experiences here on Earth. Many of them we wish we weren't going through at the time, or, with wars and genocides and all that type of stuff. That's being encouraged by the 9%. Now, there are people here on Earth that accept the 9%. And so that's what you see operating here. So I look beyond the individuals that are supporting them, and I look at the 9% of the universe. Now, if you put it on a pie chart, that looks very like a little bit. But when you think of the numbers, it's quite a few individuals that have refused to do that. They operate in low vibration or low frequency, but that's the characteristics of their species. But they can always move because every species creates their own reality, regardless of what universe you're in or planet you're living on. It doesn't matter. There's a existence protocol, and it's create, support, create. That means, like, right now, you and I are in that relationship. I'm creating, you're supporting me, you're creating, and I'm supporting you. And that goes on simultaneously between us. So, everybody operates like that. The advantage of operating from a love of self is that works with your creation of reality, in that if you're loving self, then you can only call to yourself things that support you in that. Because remember, it's create, support, create. You can only support me where I am. If I don't love myself, then you're going to support me there. You're going to share with me experiences that are going to put me in a place where, I don't love myself, you see. Now, unconditional love has about 4 or 5 pieces to it. When I was first introduced to it, I said, let me look and see how humans would define unconditional love. And I went on, various dictionaries looking it up. I looked online, and one of the things it said was that acceptance of another person's, well, they didn't even use the reality. They just said, whatever a person does, you're accepting of it. So I said, okay, there's an acceptance of one part of unconditional love. Before I tell you all the parts, I want to say this, that before we can get into a state of oneness where we can say we're one, we must go through unconditional love first. If we don't go through unconditional love, we're not going to reach the state of oneness. The energy, the color of the energy for unconditional love starts off as pink. And then the more intense the color of pink, the stronger that is. The love gets stronger. Okay. It's far different from the love when you tell somebody, oh, I love you. It's much deeper than that, because when you're practicing unconditional love, you're saying there's no difference between you and me. We may look different. We may come from different cultures, different places, but there's no difference. I'm one with you and you're one with me. So that's the next step, the second step. The third step is that you understand that each person, which includes yourself, creates your own reality, your own personal reality. Because some people ask me, Greta, how do I know when it's someone else's reality versus mine? I said, when you're personally experiencing it, you've created it. That's how you'll know. If you haven't personally experienced it, then it's someone else's. So back to unconditional love. That means I understand that everybody and everything is creating its own reality. Okay? And it's okay, whatever reality you create, it's all right. Now, the next one, which is the biggie, I call it the biggie, is to recognize that each and every person is the force. Now, what is the force? The force is the energy that created, which people call God, Allah, whatever names they put to it. And in whatever universe. When you go to a different universe, it's a whole new ballgame. You go to a different planet, it's a whole new ballgame. So everybody has a different name for that. But that is the energy that created all of existence. So the realm teaches that we are a duality. Every being is a duality. Every being in existence is the force. And so that's part of unconditional love. I recognize you as the force that created all of existence. I don't see you as a part of it. I see you as it. So when you understand that each and every being is the force, that brings you into a whole total respect of life, you see, and a respect of your own beingness, because now you're acknowledging that everything in existence is divine. Now, some people will ask me, well, what about a horrible challenge? What about that? What about somebody who goes around killing people or whatever? Okay, still the duality. There's still the force, but then the other part of the duality is personality. We're dealing with personalities here. You know, my daughter, when she was about No, she was 14 because she was her first year in high school. She came home and she said, "Mom," and she's 39 now, but she asked me, she said, "Mom, I know you told me that I have to love everybody unconditionally." I said, "Yes, that's true, Kai." And she said, "But do you have to like the person?" And I said, "No, you don't have to like the person. But you have to love them unconditionally, but you don't have to like them." She was so happy. She said it was like a whole load was taken off of her shoulders, and she just left the room, she said, "Why? Because we're all showing personalities. Why do we have the personalities? Is to help us create different realities, have different experiences here." So,
Yes, I love how that kind of wraps up the idea that in order to be the force, you don't have to not have a personality. You're saying you are the force, I am the force, and we both have personalities. And I think often in kind of spiritual pathways, there's this idea you've got to somehow get rid of your personality in order to then really be the source of everything. And you know,
absolutely, absolutely.
I also noticed you are wearing a very vibrant pink color today.
Yes,
I
just
noticed that
so
when you said about the color of unconditional love being pink, and I thought, you're wearing this beautiful vibrant pink, which is interesting when you were saying that.
Thank you. I just felt pink today, and in fact, my whole house on the inside is in different shades of pink.
Ah, how lovely. Okay, so
I don't know.
so that's the four different aspects of unconditional love. Did you say there was a fifth one as well?
I did, and then it depends on how I explain it.
Yeah.
I just put it into 4 different things.
Uh,
But see, that you gotta understand we have to see the oneness, and we see the oneness by acknowledging that each person, each individual is the force,
yeah.
and that's what brings the oneness.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's through the our relationship with others,
absolutely.
other individuals, that we then reach the place where we can be one. Which is interesting as well, because I think often people think of the oneness as being something that is nothing to do with individuals.
Mm. Yes, yes, that is possible, depending on the perception and how they're perceiving, their whole environment, yeah, and the color is different. Now this is so interesting because I'm wearing unconditional love and you're wearing oneness, because the shade of oneness is the color that you are wearing this morning.
Right. So for those who are not watching, I'm wearing a sort of a pale lilac sort of mauve color, uh,
Mhm.
which is not a color I wear often. So
Wow.
I chose to wear it today. I was looking for the color I was going to wear, and I thought, I think I'm supposed to wear this color for this interview, but I had no idea why that was.
So we are actual, representatives.
Representatives.
Yeah.
So coming back slightly, you said you were tasked with this message of unconditional love. Um, who gave you that task?
Mm. Well, we're going back to the cosmos now.
It's best place to be.
Okay. The, well, it first starts, with the realm of beings, and they've been with me since I was a child. But the task did not come necessarily from them. The task came from the 3 gods that run this universe.
Okay, so maybe would you like to tell us about the realm of beings and how those came into your life and who they are? And then perhaps if we've got time left after that, because that could take hours, uh, then I'd love to hear about the three gods.
Okay.
About that.
Okay. Alright, alright. Okay, the realm of beings, they've been with me ever since I was a child. I knew something was with me, but I wasn't quite sure. Because you're a child, right? But I lived with my mom in my, great-grandfather and great-grandmother's house in Chicago. That's where I grew up. And I noticed that when I started we lived on the second floor, and when I walked down the steps, which it was a Victorian house, so, you had these long steps in the house, staircase, that when I walked down, I might get to maybe step 3, and I'd hear, "Greta, Greta," and I'm looking around, I'm going, "Ah, I'm perceiving this as a child, right? I'm trying to figure out what the heck is this?" And I said, "Wow, something's calling my name and I don't see anybody." So then I said, "Okay," I just left. I went all the way down, took care of whatever I had to do. When it was time for me to go back up the steps, I hear again, "Greta, Greta." And I said, "Okay, something's calling my name and there's nobody around here." So then I decided something is not quite kosher here. So so then I started to run up and down the steps. So I did that for I don't know how long. I would when I'd have to go down the steps, I'd get ready, I'd get a good start, and I'd zoom down the steps and I'd still hear it. Because the idea was for me to get down faster than what they could call my name at. But I never won, and I'd run up when I was down. I don't even remember now how long I did that. But it wasn't so much that I was afraid, it was just that, ha, it was a game now that I'm gonna beat you before you can call me. So
What a fantastic response to the big message from, the ethos.
And so now I'm gonna skip a whole lot, and I'm going to go to Africa now. I'm gonna take you to Africa with me. Okay, in Africa, I went to Africa when I was 23 years old. By 24, I had married a gentleman called Mohammed Kamara. Mohammed Kamara, when we got married, I did not know this about him. It was after I was married that he would pass out. And I remember standing on the road waiting for a lorry, and I told him, I said, we need to take you to the doctor because you can't be passing out like this." I said, what happens if you pass out right here on this road? What am I gonna do? You know? How can I pick you up and carry you? He's big taller than me. And he's, "Oh, Greta, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." So I said, "Hmm." So, but anyway, one night, oh, I have to say this to you, Catherine. I'm a very curious person. That's my nature. Okay. So, um, I heard this deep voice, which wasn't his. We were asleep. And remember now, he passes out. But this time he was asleep, and there was a deep voice coming through, talking to me. And I said, something said, "Go on and talk to it." There's the curious nature. So I said, "Well, who are you?" Because then I said, "My husband must be schizophrenic, and I didn't know it." That's what I thought. Oh, I said, "I'm gonna have all these different personalities." I said, "Good gravy." Here I am, 24, just out in the world, and then I'm listening to this. So, I st it started saying, "Well, I've been with you for a long time." And I'm going, okay. It says, I've been with you, or it didn't even say I, it said we. It said, we have been with you for a long time. We've been with you as a child. So I said, ha, now I'm getting ready to trick you. Okay. So I said, this is what's going through my mind. So I said, okay, tell me something that I did when I was a child that nobody, absolutely nobody knows. And you know, it told me what I did when I was a child, which I'm not going to tell you about here.
You're not going to tell the listeners the
No.
secrets of your childhood.
That's what I say, a secret.
This is between you and the realm of beings, and that's where it ends.
Yes. Uh, and so he told me, he explained to me, and he told me, he said, there's 7 of us. Now at 24, there were 7 of them. Now there are more of them. But he said, most people have 1, but you have 7. So I'm going, well, la-di-da, how lucky can I get? You know? And so every night for a month, I must have done it for a month, that I talked. I met each one of them. The one that I met first, I called him father. The next one is like an uncle, another one like an aunt, so I spoke to 3 of them, 2 men, 1 woman. And when my husband, who was a very spiritual person himself, uh, when he woke up the next morning, I said, "Are you aware that this happened? Do you remember it?" He said, "I know nothing about that." So then gradually, I knew that these were entities that were talking to me.
Wow. And did they
Because
have 7 because they thought you were going to be a bit of a handful?
but probably, I think so. Because that brings me up to a story that has nothing to do with this, but I was working on one lady, facilitating for her, and she was always going to psychics, right? So she went to this one psychic and she said, "Oh, I want to tell you about this woman that I met. Her name is Greta." And he stopped her right in her tracks. And he said, "No, I want to tell you about Greta." Okay. So she's telling me this, and I said, "Okay, what did he say?" And he said that apparently one of the realm came to him through him and said, "Greta does not listen. We talked to Greta. And then use I, apparently, according to her. I'm attempting to assist her. I tell her what she can do, but she doesn't listen to me. She doesn't listen. Then she goes off, she does something, and she gets in all these challenges, and then I've gotta sit and wait for her to work her way out of it. When if she had just listened, you know, it would have been she wouldn't have had to go through all that, you know? So when she told me that, I said, "Well, you know," telling me that I don't listen, but see, it's always my choice. It's always our choice. So, but then through that, I decided, "Okay, I'm gonna listen a little bit better." So now so all these years now, of course, I've been doing this work now for 40 years. So I've learned to pay attention to what they're saying to me. I always have the choice to do it or not do it, but I pay attention. And most of the time, I can understand why they want me to do something. Yeah, but I had to tell you that story. So it's not always, wow, look, you got all those 7 beings with you. How great can that be, you know? So it has, I'm human. What can you say?
Yeah, and like any relationship, right? It's
Right.
pros and cons. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So would you like to tell us about the 3 gods?
Oh, the 3 gods. First of all, I have to say I did not know that there were 3. I always thought there was 1. My mother put me in Catholic school all the way up until the age of 13. I went all the way from what they would call kindergarten to 8th grade. Um, and so there was only one God. And I was reading, ah, I met a friend. He became my friend. I haven't seen him for years now. But he was a gentleman. I was going to see a documentary with my daughter at the show, Movie House. And I saw this man dressed in all white. He had a white turban on his head, but he was African American. But he had a white turban on his head, dressed all in white. And I was looking at him because I can feel things. You intuit things. So I'm sure it was the realm intuiting you must talk to this man. So when the show was over, the movie was over, so many people were gravitating toward him. So he was known by many. So I told my daughter, I said, I've got to speak to this man. So I waited till he left. And he went out into the parking lot, and I stopped him by his car. And I said, my name is Greta. I don't know why, but I feel that I'm supposed to talk to you. And that's how we became friends. Okay. He was a very spiritual person, still is. And he told me, he said, he works with the army of Melchizedek. So one night we were talking on the phone, and he said, and then he started talking about Melchizedek and so forth. He said, "Well, do you know Melchizedek?" And I said, "No, I've never really heard of Melchizedek. Who is that person?" So he explained to me some of the things, and I said to him, because I was already doing the remote transformational healing, so I could go remote, and I was just busy. And I said to him, I said, "Okay, I'm going to call on Melchizedek, and I'm going to see who he is. I want to meet Melchizedek," because I knew I could do that, right? So I'm sitting on the edge of my bed. And I must tell the audience, I have a portal in my bedroom. A portal is a passageway that leads from one reality to various realities. Okay. But the only people that can pass through that portal into my room or for me to go there is you have to have a high frequency. Low frequency individuals cannot go through that passageway. So I'm sitting on my bed. I've got books all over the place because then I was working on a doctorate in clinical psychology, right? And so I said, I'd like to see Melchizedek, right? So here comes this individual through the portal, steps in front of me, has look like Moses. I don't know if you've seen that. Well, you've seen pictures of Moses where gray hair, gray beard, the beard went all the way to his navel, was in like a grayish, not white, but a grayish looking uh, gown with no collar to it and so forth, all the way down to his feet, no shoes, steps in front of me. But when he steps in front of me, I instinctively, I didn't even think about it. I just instinctively bowed like this, bowed down, and because I'm sitting on my bed, so I'm bowing from my waist for the audience who's just listening. And I said, "Father." That's all I said. I said, "Father." And then we talked a little bit. And then he left. And I'm going, dag, who was that? You know, and then why am I bending over saying Father? So it's like I recognized that energy, that being, but I did not know how or why. So I ran downstairs because my friend was coming over, and I got into ego now because I didn't want him to think that I didn't know who Melchizedek was, right? Go. So I said, oh, I've got to read about this. So I have a whole bookshelf full of metaphysical books. And I said, which one of these books is going to tell me the answer about Melchizedek? And I have a whole list of Alice Bailey's books and all that kind of stuff. And then I saw The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hurtak, which I have been reading for years. I read that book for 12 years. He's got so much stuff in it, you can never learn it all in one sitting. So then I said, it's going to be in The Keys of Enoch. I think I was led to that, my intuition. Okay. So I pulled it out and I looked in the index to see what page I would find about Melchizedek. It wasn't nothing in the index. But for those of you who don't have that book, there's an index and then a glossary before the index. So intuition, go to the index. I looked up Melchizedek. And in that explanation, and it resonated with me. See, it has to resonate with me, and then I know that this is what I can understand, and this is what I can put, in my brain, and keep it in there, right? So I read it, and it said, Melchizedek is one of the gods that created this universe. That I said, holy moly. Oh my God, and I'm going, oh, so that had to resonate. So I said, well, if he's one of them, there are three of them. Well, who's the other one? So then I read Metatron, Michael, not Michael, the guardian angel, but Michael. Those are the English names. See, I know that every planet is going to have different names for them, but that's how I learned that there were three gods. And then that's how I learned about Melchizedek. And that is why when he came through the portal, because I know people will say, how can you see God? We place God in such a fantastic position in our lives. It's a superior being to us. We're little fledglings in comparison to it. How could that energy come to see little old me? And when I read that, I said, man, if I knew that God was coming to see me, I would have cleaned my bedroom because I had books all over my bed that I was reading. I mean, my bedroom looked like a hot mess. Okay. And I said, and God came into my hot mess with me. So that's how we came about with the three gods. So that mandate for unconditional love came from the three of them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love how you talk about this because, you're talking about things that are completely wild and wacky to most of us who have experienced it in this way. And you talk about it as just completely natural and normal. This is your life. This is the life that you've been living, and obviously other people are finding their connection with you valuable because you work with people and you help people. How long have you been working with people and helping others?
Oh, well, now, when you ask me that question, I have to say since I was a child. Because the first thing that I was learning is I would talk it over with my mom. I told her, Well, I tell this story. It's Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence was a gentleman who lived on our block. And all the kids, we loved Mr. Lawrence. He would tell us stories. We loved him so much that we would go, if we're going to play rope, we would go jump rope in front of his house. Not in front of our own houses, but his house. I mean, he was loved by the kids in the neighborhood, you know. And one day, I was at home and I told my mother, I said, Mom, I said, Mr. Lawrence is coming to die. And she said, Greta, don't think about that. And I said, but he is. He's coming to die. 2 days later, he made his transition. He died. So then I knew, and my mother knew too. She told me, don't tell everybody. And then I guess a few other things, hearing the voices, all of that. And she told me, she said, don't tell everybody that you know how to do these things, you know. So it was a lot of fear instilled at me as a child because she said, they may think that you're not quite right in the head. So don't do that now. I said, okay, Mom, I won't tell them. But, so it started then. And I learned that when I came back from Africa, I also learned that I could see things. Because, I have to tell you this story. You're going to love this one, Catherine. I was laying in my bed, right? It was at night. But I woke up early in the morning. It was a school night. I was up on the second floor. This lady who dressed like a nun, when the nuns used to wear those long robes and covering their heads and everything. Remember now, I grew up learning the Catholic religion. So, Mary is a very iconic figure in Catholicism. So, and I was taught in school about the Lady of Fatima, the Lady of Lourdes, how the children at Lourdes saw the Mother Mary, how the children of Fatima saw the Mother Mary, she appeared to them and so forth. Okay, so now I'm 10 years old now. This lady comes up and crosses my bed just like this, very slowly, facing forward. Comes through a window now when I'm up on the second floor, passes in front of me just like that, goes out the wall on the other side. I said, hot diggity dog, man, I've seen Mother Mary. I said, I can't wait to tell my mother. This is what's going through my head. I said, I can't wait to tell my mother I've seen Mother Mary. I can't wait to get to school to tell the nuns and to tell the kids that I too saw Mother Mary. I was so excited, Catherine. And then I couldn't wait till my mother woke up. When she woke up, I ran to her room, Mom, I saw Mother Mary. She's just looking at me very nonchalantly, not excited at all. And I explained she had long robes on. I explained the whole thing. My mother's still sitting there listening. Then finally, when I'm through, she says, Greta, that's nothing. That's the lady that lives in the basement, the house. I was so outdone. I couldn't believe it. And my mother, she just said like, yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
I could, yeah. And but it taught me two things. Taught me not to get too excited when I see something like that. And it also taught me that my mother could see,
Yeah.
that she could see. Yeah.
And
So
also that she had no ego going on around it.
absolutely.
A very good relationship with her. She sounds like a perfect person for you to have
Yes.
as your mother, as you were going through all of that.
Yes, yes, yes. So then when I came back from Africa, um, in Africa, they told my husband, they said, your wife is a witch. That's how they define, because I would tell them things, and then the things they would create the things to happen, but at that time, it's like Greta could see. Greta told me this was gonna happen, and now look at it. Okay, my first husband dies, I get married again, we come back to the States, I got divorced because it didn't quite work out, but what I started to do, what people would call me and ask me, they said, "Greta, can you help me?" And I don't even know how it started, but they said, "Greta, can you help me?" Like my friend Grace said, "Greta, help me. I need to sell my house." And I said, "Okay." 'Cause they knew that I could see, 'cause by this time, I didn't hide it, you know? Everybody knew it. I wasn't afraid of it. I said, "There's no need to be afraid of anything." And, I learned that from my first husband. He said, "Don't be afraid of anything." And, so that's the stance I took, let alone did I know I was gonna be dealing with this, what I'm doing now in my life. But anyway, I would pray for people because at that time I was just praying. I would pray, I would fast from sunrise to sunset, because I was a Baha'i at that time. I was but I've done so many religions. I've done Islam, Buddhism, Nichiren Shoshu, so I accept all religions as one because we're all one. So, that was something I would do because I would pray and fast for maybe 3 or 4 days, but I'd know when I could stop, and I would stop, and, whatever you wanted, you got it. It would be created for you. Um At that time, I did not know anything about you create your own reality, so my perspective was different then. A friend of mine, he had gotten a job in California in Silicon Valley as one of the computer people, and he called me, he said, "Greta, help me." He said, "They've given me this problem that I must solve. If I don't solve it, they may let me go, and I won't get the job," because he was on a probationary period, and so his boss had given him this. At that time, he was in California, so they're 2 hours, behind my time. So but my time, it must have been, like, about 10 o'clock at night. So he said, "Help me." I said, "Okay, I'll help you." So I got down, I put my prayer rug down on the floor, sat down and just prayed and prayed and prayed. I stayed there for like maybe 3 or 4 hours, concentrating on somebody to come and help him solve this problem so that he could stay there. And I just did, and all of a sudden said, "Okay, it's done." So then I got up. Then by now it must be like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning my time. And I got up and just went to bed. The next day, he calls me. He says, "Greta, you aren't gonna believe this." I said, "No, I'll believe it." And he said, "The woman, my boss, who gave me the problem, came back to work at about, what, 9, 8 o'clock at night, something like that, and showed him how to do the problem." And that coincided with the time that I when it said, "Okay, it's done, you can go back to bed." You know? So, I was doing stuff like that then. So, when you ask me that, how long has it been since I've been helping people? I have to go back to my childhood. That was occurring, Africa, I came back. I stayed in Africa 4 years, so I was about what, going on 28, 29, 30, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And then I started at a singing. I got a job singing. My mother's friend was attending a Science of Mind church with Ernest Holmes, who created that. And so that's what started my journey on metaphysics. Listening. I got that job. She interviewed me for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then we decided we could stop talking. I got up and I'm at the door to leave, and she said, "Greta, I forgot one thing. And I said, "What did you forget?" And she said, "I forgot to hear you sing." And that's what she hired me for. But she said, "Never mind, go on." I said, "Oh, okay." So that was my beginning of science of mind. I started studying that. And then Vera left to go to California, and she died there. But she left us with Claudine. And Claudine, by that time, I had a group of people that I had gotten together, and we were studying, and Claudine was our teacher. And then I started getting into Alice Bailey, um, reading all of the books written around the 1920s, um, reading things about existence. That's what I started studying, existence, more so than self-help books, but existence. And then Dr. Hickman, I got to her. She trained me for 3 days with about 20 other people, how to go remote, how to do what she called depossession work. She's no longer with us now. And that's when I was introduced to other species other than human. Yeah.
Have you
And so
have you written a book about your life?
that is so funny, because when I came from Africa, I said, "I need to write a book," because just my African experience was just
It's
tremendous.
so rich. I mean, you know, it would take us so long to go through your whole life properly. It's just fascinating, and I love how you've explored all sorts of different things. You kind of intuitively explored that or this, and one thing leads to another, and then you meet somebody, and it's like a dance. Listening to it, it's like a dance through life, where you're exploring all these things, and I love it. I think if you do ever write a book, please let me know, because I'd like to invite you to come back on and talk about the book, because I think reading the full story of your life, I imagine, would be such a transformative experience for someone.
Thank you. I have a friend, and it's gonna be called African Violet. I wrote a chapter with David Trotter's book about my life. I think it's called Awakening Hearts, and different people had different chapters, and that's when I started it. I called it African Violet because when I came from Africa, I said, "That's what I need to call that book," because an African violet looks it's very tender and delicate, but it's such a strong plant. And in Africa, I learned to be strong. I can't even begin to explain to you things that I went through there. And just to learn to be strong, person. So it is going to be called African Violet. My literary agent, who's been a friend of mine since she was younger. She's younger than I am, so she's been coming up and with me. And she said, "I've been waiting for 50 years for you to write this book. We're gonna do it this time." So we have certain chapters, and I have certain parts that I've written. But right now, the doing the album, it was gonna be a compendium to the album in silence. Instead, now I'm reversing it, because the topics in there, I think, need to really be given a lot of expression. On compassion, one of the numbers is the treatise on compassion. What is compassion? So I'm working on that one. It also has about 49 prose pieces I wrote for that, for the In Silence album, which has 7 pieces to it,
You
you know.
Thank you so much. Before we finish, I was gonna ask you about the album, because I've seen, videos of you making your music with the young woman, the beautiful woman with the sound bowls.
Yes,
Absolutely,
Danielle Heiss.
absolutely gorgeous, and on the website, it does say about the kind of experience of taking in your music. And I definitely felt myself being taken into something by the music. I wasn't just hearing it. It was taking me somewhere. Beautiful experience. So I really, people can find out about that on the website, can't they? I'm going to tell people again where your website is. It's drgretta.com, DOCTORGRETTA. So, Greta, I could happily talk to you for days and days on end, but I dare say you've got other things to do today.
Yeah.
And I don't want to kind of go over time. It's been so beautiful spending this time with you today. For you, has there been a favorite part of our conversation today?
The whole thing, because, when I met you the first time, I said, I told Tony, I said, this is going to be wonderful. I couldn't wait because I kept saying, did Catherine give us a time yet? Did she give us a day yet? And finally, when he told me, I said, yay, because I enjoyed talking to you and I love it. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this.
Me too. It's been such a pleasure. And everybody do check out Gretta's website, drgretta.com. Do listen to her music and take it in and breathe it in. I mean, it's just beautiful. And actually, although, the videos I saw, you're speaking and then there's these beautiful sound bowls happening. I actually found myself dancing to it.
Oh, wow. That's
You can actually dance to your music, that you can let the feeling of the music come into your body and allow it to move you in responding to this beautiful creation that you've given us.
Thank you, thank you. And the realm thanks you too, because it's all of their thoughts, because it's channeled and I read it. People love it. It made it to the second stage of the Grammys. The first stage is that you just turn in your application. Some people don't make it past that. So we made it into stage 2. We didn't get selected as a nominee, but we're just happy that they saw the worth of the album. So we're a Grammy-considered album now.
It's very impressive because it's such a different mode of expression. It's not something I would expect any kind of institution to recognize. So that is very impressive.
Yeah, and everybody, there has not been anybody that has not loved the album, and it's a healing. It's really a healing. I have one person, in fact, there's a piece there called Resurrection, and she was experiencing cancer. It's gone now, but during that period, she was listening to Resurrection, because at the end it says, resurrect yourself. Resurrect yourself.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been beautiful and have a fantastic day.
You too, Catherine.
And everyone watching and listening, bless you and thank you for staying with us through this journey. And have a beautiful week. And I will see you next time.